I was in a Dunkin' Donuts this morning and I got my breakfast sandwich and a latte. And I look and, I don't know, do you remember that Manager Special donut? It was a chocolate glazed donut. Manager Special. It was a chocolate glazed donut with peanut butter icing on top and chocolate swirl icing on top of the peanut butter icing yet.
Oh my god.
I mean, it's diabetes in a donut.
Yeah, it is.
But it was so fucking good. It was like, yeah, that's like the one donut I'd probably still buy from them. Non-existent anymore.
Oh my
Dude,
god.
what the fuck?
I know. I'm like, so you guys just like take away all the good shit that.
Just take away.
Seriously. Seriously.
Yeah.
It's like there's like nothing good left at that place except for coffee and sandwiches and.
Honestly, I only go there for coffee anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go piss before.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Film Asylum. We are your hosts, Colin Peters.
Hey, you guys!
Dude, it's been a fucking month and I still want to strangle the shit out of you.
Oh, to quote Plankton from SpongeBob, I love messing things up.
Obviously.
Oh, God. So, in case anybody didn't realize this, we are going to be talking about Goonies today.
Well, Jeff didn't introduce himself.
I don't give a fuck. Everyone knows who I am at this point.
He told you to go fuck yourself.
Everybody knows I'm going to interrupt you at some
himself.
point with some quote from the movie that we're going to talk about.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
Jeff Manfred.
Yeah. Did we actually choose this movie because we all enjoy it, or did we choose it because I fucking posted that?
Yeah, Jeff made an interesting post on, what was it, Facebook or Instagram?
Probably both.
Yeah, probably both. About which movie was better, Goonies or Monster Squad, and we had already discussed Monster Squad. We've already discussed Fred Dekker films. We had the Fred Dekker double decker. And also our friend and special guest Jen Harding was upset that we left her out of Monster Squad. So Jen, we're sorry.
Very sorry.
And
Don't
we
haunt
thought,
us.
you know, it would be an interesting conversation to have since we have versus episodes that, hey, why don't we discuss which is actually better, Monster Squad or Goonies? But we felt like before we get into that, we should actually talk about the Goonies first.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the Goonies itself did deserve its own episode.
Absolutely. It's
It's
a
an
classic in
amazing
its
movie.
own right. It was directed by a classic director, Richard Donner. And it has an all-star cast of, like, the kids. And the kids are really good for... You know, like, kids actors are hit or miss, but these guys were, like, all really good.
They kind of assembled the A-team of kid actors in the 80s. You got Sean Astin, you've got Josh Brolin getting, like, his feet wet in, like, a big role, and then, you know, the son of actor James Brolin. You've got Corey Feldman, who's already made a name for himself. Or I think maybe... I wonder if this is before... Yeah, this is probably when we started getting really, really popular. I think this was... Was this after Friday the 13th, Part 4? This had to have been.
So.
Yeah.
This had to have been.
Because
Yes.
it was before, obviously, Lost Boys, where he really blew
Lost
up.
Boys, Stand By Me, all those big roles that he's had in the 80s. And then you've also got Ki Hung Kwan, who was in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. So he was kind of like, because he was attached to Spielberg, who produced this movie. I think he also helped write it. Him and Christopher Columbus, who was known for the first two Harry Potter movies and the first two Home Alone movies.
Say, in Gremlins and...
Yeah.
Dude wrote a lot of really good movies. So.
He did. And even the adults also stand out too, especially the robbers. We've got Robert Davie. We've talked about him a number of times, for better or worse. Joe Pantoliano, who is like the most Italian known actor like out there.
They call him Joey Pants.
Joey Pants. And one of two films I know Anne Ramsey's been in, who is basically Mama. She's Mama in everything she's ever played in.
Oh my gosh.
Throw Mama from the Train. Owen!
Yo, she got an Academy Award nomination for that movie.
Really?
Did she
Yes.
really?
Yes, I shit you not. I looked that up and I was like, yo, good for her, man.
Good. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Although,
actually.
I gotta say, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the latest pictures of Axl Rose.
Oh yeah, he looks exactly.
He
like
looks exactly like Mama Fratelli, and I cannot unsee it anymore.
I'm sure the memes are all over the internet.
Oh, they are. They're all over, and they're hilarious. And now I'm like, wow. But what's also really neat about Goonies is the cast absolutely loves this movie. I mean, Richard Donner's really proud about him making this movie. Corey Feldman and Sean Astin, they constantly talk about it. Josh Brolin's even been all like, wow, I love that I was a part of this movie. And
well, shit, man. Like, him and his daughter did Halloween as his character, and then was it Annie? I think it was the other one. Because he did himself, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Which I thought was funny. Like, he was, what, 18 when he did this? He was pretty
17
young.
or 18.
17, he was very young.
And the fact that it is, what, 35 years and they're still talking about doing a sequel? I'm kind of curious to see where that would play out. Because even Sean Astin said he actually admitted that they're going to do one.
I mean, it would kind of follow the idea of their kids taking over the story, and they're the adults now because they've obviously grown up. And
Obviously.
if the movie doesn't start out with like some investigation out in the Atlantic Ocean discovering the ship, then you're doing something wrong if you don't start the movie out like that.
Well, it
Either
could
it's
be
still
its own adventure. It doesn't have to be about One-Eyed Willie or the ship. I mean, who knows where the hell that ship is now?
Either the ship is still out there on the water or it sank years ago and it's just at the bottom of the floor somewhere collecting water.
Or a hurricane got it.
Or, yeah, of the dozens of hurricanes every year, I'm sure one of them got it. Or a lightning bolt.
But, like, even, I think, honestly, Josh Brolin was probably the most standout character out of it. Because, like, being the bigger brother to all those, like, pretty much babysitting all those kids and then trying to keep everybody in control and safe. In the environment that they all now were kind of thrown into.
And what I liked about Josh Brolin's character is just Brand, right? It's not Brand.
I think it's Brand.
I think it's
I watched it.
It's
Brand.
It's Brand.
Brand.
Yeah.
I liked his character as the big brother that oversaw all the Goonies because he was like he had like the little like the little brother, but it was actually really loving. It wasn't so cliche like oh you bother me, you're always a pest. Like he was actually like by his side throughout the movie, which was really nice. It wasn't that like I said get the hell away from me. I mean there was little stuff here and there, but for the most part he was like a really cool big brother that made sure that all the guys were taken care of.
Absolutely.
You know, and I liked seeing that. I really did. And also going back to the sequel that you guys had said, I heard that not only Sean Astin, but Corey Feldman was game for it. And even Richard Donner is as well. And he had said that he wants, like, there's multiple scripts, obviously, because it's so popular. I'm sure you're getting fans, especially now, all over just submitting ideas. And I think the direction that Richard Donner said he wants to go into is you got the old Goonies and new Goonies, kind of like the Ghostbusters thing.
Exactly.
Now, which I think is right because you want to pass the torch. And they said, I heard Sean Astin say whether it's a sequel or a reboot, he said something Goonies more is going to come out no matter what.
I think the only problem I read about Richard Donner, he said he doesn't know if they're going to get the budget for the big movie they want.
From what I heard in one of the last interviews, and this could be 15 years ago now, was I think Warner Brothers wasn't too on board with putting the money forward, and even Steven Spielberg's company, because Steven Spielberg had like a big hand in producing this movie, obviously. I think he was originally going to direct it, and then something happened where he said no, and it's actually kind of how Corey Feldman got involved. Like originally Corey Feldman was supposed to be a best friend of Elliot's in E.T.,
That's cool.
and then they just wrote that character out, but Steven Spielberg said he wanted Corey in something else, and so I think Goonies and Gremlins were like too associated with Steven Spielberg, and that's where Corey kind of got his feet wet with a relationship with him, and then for whatever reason he dropped out and Richard Donner came in, and I don't know what the deal with the money is, but I guess other companies are willing to finance it, but I'm sure like you can get financing, but the people who have the rights now that don't want to do it, that's a clusterfuck of a situation. And I don't understand like why you can't sit down and talk and say, hey, here's the money. Why can't we just make it?
Yeah.
And if you're just holding the product hostage, then that's just stupid because they're saying, we're going to make it and we got to pay these people back after you. More than likely, it's going to be a hit. But
Oh yeah, it's gonna make its money back because of how popular it really is.
maybe that would, like I said, that interview is just like 15 years old, and now COVID and all this other stuff's happening. So
Yeah.
who knows?
I would say honestly, they might have changed their tune after releasing the 4K and the anniversaries and everything, because that's what, coming out in 35 years.
Yes, it's past 35 years. It was 1985 when the movie came out. So 2025, it'll be 40 years.
Yeah.
40 years, man, for that movie.
Another couple things that we should bring up is what's her name? Mary Ellen Traynor.
Yep. Of course she's the mom.
Yeah, of
she
course
had
she-
to be the mom.
Of course, she's the mom. She's not only the mom in Goonies, but she's the mom in Monster Squad too.
She's everybody's
Oh
mom
my god,
in
I
the
never
80s.
put that correlation together.
She is the go-to mom in the 80s. If they need a mom, they call her, and she does the part perfectly. Honestly. But yeah, this was one of 5 movies as a kid that I would watch on constant repeat. This one, Monster Squad, was another one. This may go over a lot of people's heads, but Three Ninjas. Does
Oh my
anybody
God, I
remember the
remember
movie
that.
Three Ninjas? I fucking love that movie. It's childlike wonder. It's so bad, but it is made me interested in martial arts. And then another one, oddly, was I actually watched The Crow on repeat when I was a kid.
Oh, so did I.
I mean, like, Mom, Dad, don't catch me watching The Crow because I love this movie. It's dark. It's creepy. I love it.
Man, I feel like you were sheltered out of the three of us. Because, I mean,
And-
Jeff and I are like, we're watching horror movies at like 4 years old.
Yeah.
Here you are going like, oh, Mom and Dad don't watch me watching The Crow. And it's like, The Crow?
The
What
Crow,
the
like,
hell's wrong with that?
The Crow at like 10 years old. And then Nightmare Before Christmas. So those are the 5 movies that I would watch on constant repeat. They're like, John, I think you have a problem. Can you watch something different other than these 5 movies?
What the
No.
hell's wrong with watching movies on repeat if they're good?
I know.
If they're good, you're gonna like. If you like chicken parm, you're gonna eat chicken parm again. So what the hell? I don't understand when people are like, oh, you watched it again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Three Ninjas, the chicken parm may have come from somewhere else because obviously I can't really sit down and watch it as an adult without picking it apart. Like, stunt double, stunt double, stunt double.
Yeah. Well.
They're
I mean,
also
Victor
kids.
Wong was like 50 years old and he's like doing backflips and side flips, and it's shot in a way where it's clearly not him, it's somebody else.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in Goonies that you could really pick apart when you think about it. Even though this is like a master classic.
It's a master classic. I think it was just had to do with just the idea of pirate lore and skeletons and skulls. I wanted my bedroom to look like the inside of One-Eyed Willie's cabin. That's how much I loved everything about the atmosphere of this movie.
Oh, dude, it's a totally fun kid adventure movie with like great camaraderie with everybody. Even the 2 girls, what's her name? Carrie Allen?
Carrie Green.
Carrie Green
Carrie
and
Green.
Martha Plimpton.
Yep.
They're kind of like the preppy ones that really don't want to get involved, but then they just kind of like wrong place, wrong time sort of thing when they're off in this adventure. And it's funny how everybody plays a part in everything. Like it's just like it was all meant to be. I mean, it's typical Hollywood cliche, like, oh hey, this just happened to work out like that. But it's fun. It's a movie. You get lost in the adventure of it, and it's the thrill of the adventure that these kids go on that adults wouldn't even think about going on. Or like, obviously they said that nobody even dared to look for the treasure, and I think it's cool because it's that like Jeff and I had said, like if Monster Squad was a thing, like shit, dude, Jeff and I would have started a club like that.
Yeah.
We totally would have done a Goonies adventure because it's like pirate lore and meets Indiana Jones, really.
Yeah.
Which is no pun intended because of Spielberg and
Mhm.
Data being in Temple of Doom.
Honestly, it
Short
probably was kind of a little bit of a nod
Sure.
later on, like, oh yeah, we did do that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm
But
surprised we didn't find a fedora up in the attic just
I
as
know. Or even a whip just hanging there.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it was somewhere
Did
in
you
the
guys
pirate
go to
ship.
your attic to try and find if there was a map up there?
No.
I did.
I was up in the attic, but for other reasons.
I just found nothing but rat traps and squirrel shit. No magic, no treasure map, no nothing.
I think the one thing I did find about this movie, Heather Langenkamp was supposed to play Annie, but then
No shit.
they realized she was too old. She was 20 at the time.
Oh,
wanted
dude,
someone-
that's
Oh, she
bullshit.
could've-
That's what I
Pull
said.
it
I'm like,
off.
they wanted someone to look a little bit younger. I'm like, at that time, like after Nightmare and everything, she was a little bit older, so it's like, all right. I'm like, I don't care. I would have watched it.
Oh my god.
I would have believed it.
I would have totally believed it.
That's bullshit.
I know.
She totally would have pulled it off.
I believe
Because she looks the part.
I would say, but if you think about it, we're a little biased because we've already seen her in a lot of things, and she does an amazing job. So that's probably why we're a little biased for it. But like the woman who did play Annie did an amazing job too. So
Oh yeah,
perfectly.
I'm not knocking anybody in the movie at all. I think everybody did a fantastic job. Even Rosalita. I also do want to say that John Matusak, who played Sloth, he's had an outstanding career because he was a first-round draft pick for the Oakland Raiders. He won 2 Super Bowls, and he had a pretty standout performance himself as Sloth.
Hold on. A Super Bowl winning guy played Sloth.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's actually pretty badass.
Oakland Raiders were a team to be feared back then. Not so much anymore, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, back in his day, though.
Back in his day, they were like the go-to team in the AFC.
I believe he was a defensive end.
Wow.
So he
was a big guy. So.
Yeah, he was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had a lot of motion as Sloth. Absolutely. Even from beginning to end.
Before we continue, do you want to actually explain the synopsis of the film?
Before we get carried away?
Yeah, we jumped in and started talking about like everybody, like more or less the background before we started talking about the movie itself. So
that's true. Pretty much, Goonies is just a come-together story about a bunch of kids that are losing their family home, and is it the whole like area in general?
Yeah,
from
it
like
seems
a real
like
estate?
The whole area is getting bought out.
Yes.
And they want to put a golf course in, I
A
think.
land developer.
Yeah, it's kind of like they call it the Boondocks, but it's not really a Boondocks area. I mean, it's not shabby or nothing.
No.
It looks like a nice area up in like the main section.
You got like beachfront property.
Yeah, so I'm like, well, it's not really the Boondocks, but okay.
Yeah.
And the kids, Bran and what's Sean Astin's name? Mikey. Yeah, I know, right? Their dad is a curator, I believe they say, and they knew about this lore about the pirate One-Eyed Willie, and realized that his treasure wasn't discovered. So for some fucking reason, the map is up in their attic.
Behind a picture.
Well, I think it's one of those things like he had everything. Like there was a lot of like pirate paraphernalia up there for One-Eyed Willie, I guess, because the dad actually being the curator, he was interested in it, so he kept some of the stuff that kind of like look into it at a later time. Never did, and they just accidentally discovered the map.
Yeah,
you're right.
And so they go on this adventure and thinking that if they find the treasure, they're going to be able to save the property and their house and just stay there. But while they're looking for the treasure, they encounter a trio. Really, it's a trio of criminals called the Fratellis, which consists of Anne Ramsey as the mama, Robert Davie and Joey Pants as the 2 brothers. And Sloth is the other brother who they keep chained up, and like their hideout is like built on top of the foundation where the pirate ship is hidden with all these booby traps, and the Goonies go on this adventure to get past the Fratellis, get past the booby traps, and find One-Eyed Willie's treasure.
Who do we have to thank for finding that map? Chunk.
Dude, the clumsy kid.
The clumsy kid set the plot in full motion.
He knocked the dick off of what? The David that the mom had?
Yeah, he did.
They glue it upside down.
Yeah.
I love his reaction when she notices something wrong. Oh shit, what? I love his comedic timing in this movie.
Oh, he's fantastic with the comedy in this.
Jeff Cohen, I think is his name.
Yes.
Yeah, Jeff Cohen plays Chunk. Everybody wanted someone to do the truffle shuffle in the recess yard. Do the truffle shuffle. It's true.
Yeah.
I remember Hey You Guys more than anything from Goonies.
Yeah, that was that's one of the go-to lines. Goonies never say die. They never say die.
The funny thing is, so they say shit 19 times throughout this entire movie, but they planned it so well that if they could edit it for TV, that there was background noise, they could just block it out. So like if you watch it's happening, like there's a car chase, they say it, water's behind them, so everything was able to be blended out, so it could be just put on TV without an actual like edit.
Okay.
Because I was reading that this morning, and I'm like, that's actually really fun. So I started like looking for everything. I'm like, Oh, it makes a lot of sense.
It's not so blatant and stand out.
Yeah.
Because that is so annoying when you watch a movie on TV and you're like, oh, that's obviously edited for TV.
The most horrible one is Die Hard 2. If you ever watch the televised version of Die Hard 2, it is bad. The voiceover dubbing is horrible. It sounds like some guy from the South playing John McClane, and it is the most obvious voiceover. I would avoid watching that one on TV. Just watch it on DVD or on streaming. But this one is fine.
Yeah. Did you guys pick up on the whole conversation that they're having in Italian between Ma and the brother?
Robert Davie?
Yeah.
I knew that Robert Davie was very fluent in Italian.
Mm-hmm.
Anne Ramsey, I don't even know if she's really Italian or not, but apparently Robert Davie's also a real singer.
Yeah. I thought that was actually really cool.
Yes, he is.
And so he taught her a couple things in Italian to just carry on the conversation. Because what was really cool about Richard Donner, from I heard from the cast, was that if you had an idea, he listened to it. Like, I think that conversation that you're talking about, Jeff, was Robert Davie's idea.
I believe it because, like you said, he's very fluent. He does the opera, he does everything, and I thought that was actually really cool that they incorporated that into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was also his idea to shoot the gas when they escape.
Oh, okay.
So they kept
Yeah,
it.
that's right. I do remember him saying that.
But I was laughing because, like, I'm not fully fluent in Italian. I can pick up little words, but it's like pretty much they're calling the kids stupid, and they're like, what should we do with them? And then Robert Davie's like, yo, they're stupid kids. They're not going to know what's going on. So it was kind of funny. Like, I caught a little bit this morning when I'm watching, like, oh, that whole conversation when I was a kid, I never paid attention to. Because obviously I didn't know what the hell was saying. So it's just funny because I'm like, now that I'm older, I'm like starting to understand everything. I'm like, damn, they really were going over their heads. Went over everyone's heads with that conversation.
That's hilarious. Also, Mouth, played by Corey Feldman. I love that he's fluent in Spanish, and his verbal torture of Rosalita is hilarious.
Isn't the closet like the sex dungeon or something like that?
The closet sex dungeon.
Oh, no, wasn't it the attic?
Something along those lines. The basement, attic.
Or they said you're gonna go up in the attic. I don't know.
You'll be like food for the cockroaches. And in this drawer, we have the drugs stashed in a very neat order. The top is cocaine. The middle is heroin. You must keep it organized. I love that he was fluent in Spanish.
He did have some of the best lines in that. Like when Martha Plimpton said something about, you look ugly, and he goes, here, you ever look at this? And he pulls out a mirror, and she's like, do you keep that around just to say that?
Yeah, I believe it.
In Data with the gadgets, he was the inventor, and he always like had something flubbed up.
I know, but it always worked out. Somehow it worked out, even though it was a mess up. It still worked in their favor with the punching mitt, with the oil slick, all of it.
Dude, the oil slick was really cool, though.
I was laughing
coming out of the shoes.
Yeah.
I was laughing about his opening where he's on the roof and he puts in the 007 theme and just slides in there screaming, yo, the screen door.
Oh, and the trash can.
Yeah.
He's like trying to pull the trash can to him, but then it pulls him instead.
Yeah, I think this movie was had a little bit of everybody in each character. Like each of us as kids would want to be like somebody. We all knew I was Chunk, but I was clumsy, I was fat, it was funny, like it fit. But as I got older, I became Mouth.
Actually, we should call you more Hands.
Yeah.
You were also mentioning about Josh Brolin's character. One thing I liked about his character a lot is that he's not the typical jock, even though he's built like one, because he actually gets bullied too. Especially with the girl he's trying to be with, and she's dating the scumbag son of the land developer, and he actually has a hard time like in school. Like, he feels like he's kind of the outcast in his age group, which I thought was cool. Like, he wasn't the cliche jock, as I mentioned before, so that gave him some more depth.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything about, I think, Bran was really well done, and Josh Brolin did a fantastic job at it. Because you really did feel for him, and you saw his chops as an actor, which was like really impressive for a younger guy.
I'd say the conversation that'll stand out is the one they're having when Bran's doing the workout, the bench press pretty much, and Mikey's in his room, and like obviously the rooms are connected, so they're talking, and you can see that he's trying to figure out what Mikey's trying to get at, but yet also kind of be supportive. So it's like they're the back and forth right there. I thought was amazing because it caught me off guard too. Like I said, it's like both young actors and they're both kind of like working their way up. Like Sean Astin, like I don't know if he did much before this, but
I'm not sure either, but John Astin's parents are Patty Dukes and John Astin, who
Yes.
Was it Gomez Adams?
exactly.
And, was it Tex from Frighteners?
Yeah.
So he comes from a pretty like prestigious background, and obviously privileged too in that manner, but none of it showed. Like he played a humble kid in the movie, and he was very good as a kid actor.
Same with Josh Brolin, coming from James Brolin.
Oh, exactly.
Not just like a big 70s actors from Westworld, Amityville Horror. I watched this movie called The Car not too long ago. It's basically John Carpenter's Christine before it was John Carpenter's Christine. An evil possessed car out in the desert, and James Brolin has to save the day. There was one really cool scene where the car goes from one end of the house, floors over a woman, a stunt double, and then it goes to the opposite end of the house and just keeps going at 70 miles an hour. They did one shot in one take. It looked really good. Other than that, the movie sucked. But but James Brolin was the sheriff, and he had to save the day.
Awesome.
So that was awesome.
I'll say honestly, the only thing I remember James Brolin from was the original Amityville Horror. So past that, I'm not gonna look forward.
He still did a couple things, but he's I think he's probably just enjoying life away from the big scene and everything. His son's kind of just taken over. He's everywhere now.
Plus, he's married to Barbara Streisand. I'm sure they're not hurting for money. That's for sure.
No.
So, I think he was on some show with Diane Wiest as his wife. I don't know if it's on anymore, but I remember one joke that they had in the show because it was like very family oriented, and I guess their kids were talking about how they're not getting any sleep, and with the take, like as far as sleep aids go, and he goes, you know what helps me sleep? Being 70. So
It's a good quote.
So he seems to like have a good sense of humor and what he does with his work now, and he's not taking things too seriously, which is really cool.
That's good. So they find that treasure map. I gotta say, like, speaking of that treasure map, you had mentioned Sean Astin's parents before. His mom thought that the treasure map, because he got to keep that prop when the movie was done, she thought it was a crinkled old piece of paper and she threw it away. I would have been so fucking mad if I found out that day. You threw out my treasure map from the movie because you thought it was trash. Damn you.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, dude, that's impressive. This is the only thing I own from the Goonies is a replica of that map.
Oh.
It's a smaller one.
Oh, God. All the pieces fall into place. They just happen to know exactly where everything is. They can see the coast. They know exactly where the coordinates are and where this house, this old abandoned jalopy of a house, is just in the middle of nowhere. And that's where they have to go to find the treasure.
They use that skull medallion.
I wanted that
pendulum.
fucking thing. I wanted to make my own thing. I wanted to buy that. I wanted that thing.
What is it? The map said the 3 stones. I'm actually thinking about it. And then the medallion itself lined up with the lighthouse and the 2 stones. So it's like it went in line, and then it lined up with the restaurant.
In case you guys can't see, Jeff's actually holding up an imaginary version of that said medallion with his hands right now.
Speaking of which, I just got a message from the record store. They might actually have a copy of the soundtrack.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Really?
I sent one this morning.
With Cyndi Lauper?
No, the actual soundtrack.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
She might be on there. Because they re-released it for Record Store Day, which was 2 weeks ago, the 12th. And I was like, oh, cool. So I was just curious. But, yeah, so, like, with everything that kind of fell into place, like, they knew what they were looking for. As I'm still holding the fake medallion.
He's still holding the imaginary medallion.
It just happens to be now they lead into this restaurant that looks like it should have been burned down, like, 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Even Corey Feldman Mouth actually makes a comment of, like, it's been out of service for how many summers now?
Chunk just wanted his soda pop. Damn it. Of course it's going to be empty, man.
So as they're going up to this restaurant, they hear gunshots, and Chunk is like losing his goddamn mind. He's like, yo, those are gunshots, not like movie gunshots, those are real gunshots.
Yeah. Nobody believes him because it's Chunk.
Yeah. Come on, and like the fact that even later in the movie when he calls the cops and they start calling him out on all his bullshit.
Oh, the list of times hilarious. He called us.
But
didn't he also say things like he was bragging to guys like Michael Jackson came to his house to use his bathroom or something? No, he didn't come and use my bathroom,
but it was his sister. The only one and only tie to Gremlins was in this movie. which later was made with Christopher Columbus, the cops actually asked him about the creatures that inhabited his...
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was funny, like...
Corey Feldman was in Gremlins, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was.
It's been a while since I've seen it. And
Same here.
That's actually a decent movie, too. Like,
absolutely.
It's another one of those, like, 80s movies that I felt like went under the radar at first, and then later became more popular.
It's a holiday movie now.
Yeah.
It can be Christmas and Halloween when you think about it.
It really could.
No, it's straight up just Christmas. Come on. They hang the one person with Christmas lights.
They do.
But it's like kind of got like horror elements in it.
Oh,
They're
straight up,
Gremlins. The
People
title of
die
the
in
movie is
yes.
Gremlins.
People do die in the movie, but in a funny, campy sort of way.
Get in the restaurant. That's where they had that conversation. Dude, all I remember is like everyone showing up, and they're trying to find a way out. So they're all going to the bathroom at the same time. That's when they discover the freezer, and Chunk's all excited about finding all this fucking ice cream.
He finds Rocky Road as all these other
He like
flavors.
smells it through the door yet.
Like, how the fuck do you smell ice cream through?
This kid has the fucking scent receptor of a German Shepherd. Jesus.
You know, his arms are full of ice cream. They're all losing their fucking mind because there's a dead body behind him. He's still like, dude, there's ice cream. And he's like, Rocky Road. And having all this shit. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Now they finally believe him that some serious shit's going on. Okay, this Italian family is occupying this rundown restaurant. They actually serve him water during one. It was like
water?
dirty.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, we're here to get some food and water because we're thirsty. And then this water is like straight up like brown.
Yeah,
It's
it
brown
looked
water.
it looked like bottom shelf Long Island iced tea colors.
You might need to go to the hospital once you drink this stuff. And then and even Mouth is trying to be really, really funny. And I love the way Mama grabs his face. His tongue is barely sticking out. The only thing we serve here is tongue.
Dude, the veal scallopini, I was like, he's even doing the hand gestures. I was like, this little fucker.
Cocky motherfucker. That's good stuff.
It just goes to show that Corey Feldman was made to be an actor.
Oh, yeah, dude, he was a great showman. And
Yeah, he was. At such a young age, too. I mean, finding talent like that was really rare. One part that I thought was there are a lot of corny parts in Goonies, let's be honest with you.
Of course.
It's very flawed, but it's very fun.
Yeah.
But one scene that I remember that I was like, it's cool, but yet it's not, was when they reach the part where they're under the well, and they find all the coins.
Oh, yeah, this is my wish.
Yeah,
The wishy well.
And Martha Plimpton said, you can't take those. Those are everybody's wishes. And he said, this is my wish and it didn't come true and I'm taking it back. It's wow, he delivered that line really well and that's a strong line.
Some depth behind that, yeah.
But yet it was
The corniest.
I know.
You found that exact coin.
I think it was more or less a metaphor of this one.
I think he was maybe referring more metaphorical.
But I felt so what was the wish? What didn't come true for you?
I think it's because he probably made the wish about losing his home.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's what it was, yeah.
Because they never really stressed it. Just like how they mentioned something about an octopus, and here it was in a deleted scene, and they said the octopus was so bad that it was taken out. And I remember Sean Astin said, if you notice that there are some things that are mentioned or talked about and you don't see in the movie, and the octopus was one of them. And they're like, yo, that octopus was scary. And I'm like, yo, you think that you'd remember an octopus if you saw the movie.
You would, yeah.
They even had a song for the movie about, I think it was called, the band was called the Goondocks or whatever.
The Goondocks?
Something, it was actually...
No, that's the sequel, the Goondock Saints.
But it actually was something about an octopus, and they had to cut it, obviously, but they still released the vinyl. They said it's apparently the most rare thing to find.
Oh, Jesus.
But it flopped, obviously, because it made no fucking sense.
Yeah.
I did hear what was really cool, because those sets were real, and I think Dick Donner said that he likes filming actually on location. Yeah, they call him Dick.
I was like,
no, they do call him Dick. You don't mouth at me like
Richard,
that.
Now you're calling him Dick?
Yeah.
I'm just laughing because it caught me off guard.
That's what they call him.
Fucking Dick Donner.
Dick Donner.
Dick Donner. It actually has a nice ring to it.
At least his last name isn't Hertz.
Or Small.
Dick Small. Anyway, back to that.
But wherever the pirate ship was, it took 3 months, I think, for them to build it, and they built a real legit ship, and they hid it from the kids until they first saw it because they wanted to have a genuine reaction from him.
That's a good reaction.
And so when they all popped up and they saw the ship, Josh Brolin actually went, "Holy shit!" And Richard Donner was like, "Josh, you can't do that." And he's like, "But dude,
there's a ship! There's a fucking ship!
They weren't expecting
in
that.
the cavern. Oh, man.
And those sets were awesome in that movie. I mean, I
Incredible.
so wanted to go on an adventure like that. I don't give a fuck how dangerous and scary
That's
it was.
why I wanted my room to be the inside of Willie's cabin, just because the production design was amazing.
Well, even the little lagoon where the pirate ship was, it was like, yo, I'd go swim in there, dude.
Dude, the slip and slide all the way down.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Honestly, the one thing that always stuck out with me, like the whole puzzles trying to get to the ship.
Yes.
Oh, you're there.
But I think the biggest set piece that always stuck out was the organ, and trying to play the right notes.
I know. It's cool. Like the keys are made of bones. That was
Yeah.
really neat. And if you press the wrong key, it would make like this awful sound, and then the floor would cave in as the Fratellis are on their trail, and then the bridge would just slowly inch its way every time you play the correct note. It's a cool set piece, but yeah, it's like don't think too much into it.
It's just like everything. Like
Yeah.
Data having he falls in that pit where the spikes are, and the little like chattering teeth or what save him. And yet you still have to like find a way to get down in there, and they don't show how everybody else gets down in there without dying.
That
teeth.
little teeth has the
Yeah.
tensile strength to hold everybody's weight. No, that kid would be he'd be dinner for somebody. He's
An octopus.
An octopus. He'd be done for. And also, like, Chunk, I think, also, they send him... He escapes. Does he escape? Because he gets out to the road and the Fratellis find him. And I find there's one glaring technical error because he stops a car coming down the road, and it happens to be Robert Davie. He starts singing. In one shot, he's not singing, but when they do a close-up on him, he starts singing his operatic notes. And then Chunk is screaming for his life, and then if you look close in the rearview mirror, he's not singing at all. I was like, oh, that's okay. I wish maybe they'd gone back and redid that again so that maybe they match it up, but it doesn't match up. So there's just some editing issues there with some of the film. But, well, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, Goonies is totally flawed with stuff, but I mean, if you
Made
just
for
like
kids.
if you just cut loose, and I think it's also one of those movies where it has a nice balance for adults and kids.
Our generation, we are adults, and we're watching this and like appreciating the kid inside of us, just coming back to full fruition. So,
And a lot of the fun with this sequel talk is the Goonies growing up and passing it down to their kids, so it's starting to become a generational thing, which is really cool. I mean, overall, it's shot pretty well. There's like nothing really stand out as far as cinematography really goes. Lighting playing an effect in like the caves and the way the booby traps are.
the
and
actual
stuff.
real set locations really enhance the cinematography because
Yeah.
they're on mostly real locations.
Yeah, I
which
mean,
is
there's
really
nothing
cool.
that like make you have like any sort of like psychological feel or nothing, because it's like I said, I think it was geared more towards kids and the adventure that you can go on.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, were there scary elements? Yeah, sure, but there really wasn't anything that I think would be like horrific. I mean, maybe to some parents that would just like find a stick up their ass.
The
to
only
complain
things that
about
come to
something.
mind, maybe like the introduction to Sloth, because you have no idea what that thing is, who is that, like who they're torturing. Like you can't see him because the lighting is suggesting that it's some kind of monster that's gonna come after the kids and maybe eat them or kill them.
Yeah.
And then finding the dead body in the freezer, they play like the suspenseful music to suggest that they're watching a scary moment right now because it's a dead body.
But then those scary moments all like turn into like a comedic or a heartfelt moment. Like finally when Sloth turns around, you're like, oh my god! But then he's interacting with Chunk.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
Chunk is like captured by the Fratellis at this point, so they lock him up with Sloth. And then Chunk's trying to offer him a Baby Ruth.
Baby Ruth?
Baby Ruth?
How popular did Baby Ruths become after this movie?
And Rocky Road ice cream, because Rocky Road? Because, like, Sloth breaks through the chain because Chunk couldn't give it to him, so he wanted the candy bar so bad.
So
he breaks the chains and grabs it, and Chunk goes, wow, mister, you're hungrier than I am.
If you think about it, though, like, it means those chains were fucking useless.
Yeah,
Oh, I
exactly.
know. That whole time when we're seeing him, it's like he could just break free at any time, but he just didn't.
Yeah. It was all a mental prison he was in, too. Because, like, if
Mental
he's that
prison.
strong, they're beating
He
the
just
shit out
needed
of
the
that.
strength of a baby Ruth.
Yeah.
The sight of a baby Ruth was all it took.
It'd be funnier if it was a Snickers now, not going anywhere for a while.
Oh! Oh! Jesus, that's funny.
Dad jokes.
Oh, dad jokes. Oh my god. Thinking about it now.
Better be.
And more of Chunk going through his list of offenses, especially when the
Oh my
Fratellis
god,
corner him.
they want the Fratellis want Chunk to spill out everything. Like,
Talk.
why
What
the
have you
Goonies are
done?
doing it. Like, why did they come to the house? What's going on? And he better tell him the truth, or they're gonna put his hand in a blender. And so he just like when he talks about how he made a kid puke in the theater, and then everybody puked.
I thought he was the kid that puked in the theater.
Was it? I don't remember.
And then he caused everybody to start the
No,
chain
'cause
reaction of puking.
He was doing the noises, and it caused everybody to puke.
Okay.
But the funny thing is about that whole confession, the two names he brings up are his actual sister's name and his uncle's name
Oh, man.
in real life, which I thought was funny.
And Sean Astin had something about that. Like, I forget if his sister or brother, I think he had somebody named Mackenzie, or I don't even remember what it was.
Is this
but-
like Holy Mackenzie or something?
Yeah,
like that?
that's it. And so he wanted to get like his sibling involved somehow, and he
Okay.
said Holy Mackenzie, and that's how he got
Mhm.
a little nod in there as well. So I'm
Cool,
glad
cool.
you brought that up, because
It was
Sean
funny because,
Astin
like,
did the
as
same
you're talking
thing.
about a confession, I'm like, yeah, that confession alone was even funnier knowing that there's actual real people involved.
Yeah.
I also didn't know that Robert Davie was supposed to be in Rambo 2 until he was interviewed talking about Goonies.
Oh,
Because
really?
I guess around the same time they were going to be filming around the same time, and him and Stallone became friends, and Stallone wrote a part for him, and like I guess the schedules were going to conflict, and he wanted to do both, and they were going to work around it, but I guess something got lost in translation, because obviously it was the 80s, there weren't cell phones, and communicating was so bad, and they were already like down in the jungle filming Rambo 2 stuff, so trying to contact Stallone and producers just got lost, and then so it sounded like they said, well, we don't need you then, and then by the time he said, okay, I guess we're moving on, they were like, well, Davie was supposed to come and do Rambo 2 with us, and they were like, oh, well,
Oops.
this is what we heard, and this is
Oops.
what we got, and
Yeah.
now it's like, eh. But I thought it was really cool. Robert Davie was telling stories about if he meets college kids, or if they're doing tours or speeches, and there's bigger, well-known celebrities, and they think they're the popular ones when the kids are going up to them, or when anybody sees them, the kids want to talk to Robert Davie more because they know about Goonies, and they want to hear him talk more than like a more well-known celebrity.
That's
And he
great.
said he thinks that's hilarious. He thinks it's great. Like, everybody that I have watched interviews on said they absolutely love everything about filming the movie, the prestige that it has now. And I just thought that is so cool that they all love it. Like, the only person I don't hear much about is Carrie Green, but I don't know whatever happened with her in her career.
I'm not sure.
Martha Plimpton, I heard, like, has gone on to do other things. She's been successful in her own right. From what I heard, she's, not that it's a knock, but I think they said that she's kind of like her character, like, in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know her personally, but they said she's just kind of like does her own thing.
Okay. She was the one that I had a crush on when I was a kid.
Martha Plimpton?
Martha Plimpton.
Really?
Yeah, over Carrie Green. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting fact, John.
Yes. Throw a reverse card. It's like, you think I'm going to say Carrie Green? No, it was actually Martha Plimpton.
With or without the glasses?
Both, doesn't matter.
Okay, I'm just curious.
It didn't matter, really.
Because they're on and off on her.
Just think, if Robert Davie was the villain in Rambo 2, I'm sure Sylvester Stallone would have brought him on board for one of the Expendables movies.
Oh, absolutely. He still could if
Yeah.
he really
He
wanted
really
to.
could if he wanted to.
I mean, Davie, he's like worked like he obviously he knows Stallone, but he's been in like almost. I mean, well, he was in Die Hard, and I know he worked with Arnold, and he's friends with Arnold too.
Mm-hmm. He was the villain in the James Bond film License to Kill. He was the main villain in that movie.
I didn't know that.
So he has some action experience with that movie as well.
Replaced Tom Atkins in Maniac Cop.
Yeah,
So
he did.
Yes, he did.
And he was very good. Like, despite what anybody thinks about the Maniac Cop sequels, Robert Davie was an awesome hero.
He stood out a lot.
I remember he did ask the producer, like, they really want him in the movie, and he said, does it really have to be called Maniac Cop 2?
Yeah.
Still did the movie, though, because he wanted to be on board with the director. I think at one point he actually taunted Robert Zadar because he wore all that makeup on his face and he couldn't eat anything. So he would toy, like, a sandwich in front of him or, like, some delicious food and say, smells good, doesn't it? Oh, nom, nom, nom. And just starts eating it in front of him.
And it's funny when you hear these stories and when you see, like, real interviews with Robert Davie, how, like, laid back. Like, he seems like a really cool guy.
Oh, yeah.
But he has, like, this look to him where he can play, like you said, John, like, I'm sure he's an awesome villain.
He is a very good villain.
And I'm sure he can also play a really good guy like we saw in Maniac Cop. Like, he's very talented as far as an actor goes, and he's a very good singer as well. I have heard him sing. And we do get a little bit of it in Goonies as well. But I just think it's so awesome, like, how well-rounded he is and how cool it is that he's just, like, so open about it. But he just has that look, like, he can be so intimidating, but yet he's just like, yo, come talk to me and we'll hang out. And, like, very hospitable kind of vibe from him.
He's the male version of resting bitch face because it's just that angry looking.
Why didn't he sing in Showgirls?
You know
Dude,
what?
I forgot he was in Showgirls.
Yeah, but you know what? That's another perfect example where you see both sides of Robert Davie. Where he's like an arrogant asshole prick who owns a strip club, but then when he goes back and meets Nomi Malone when she's starting to be successful, he's almost like a real father figure.
His attitude towards her changes,
like very supportive, and it's like you kind of got that vibe like he didn't want her to leave because he was really going to miss her.
Mm-hmm.
Which, who the fuck missed that crazy bitch?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's maybe go back to Goonies.
Yeah. But I just wanted to bring up the talented range of Robert Davie. And Joey Pants. I mean, he's another guy that he's had an incredible career.
Massive career.
Honestly, the most thing I remember him from is The Sopranos.
Yes.
Sopranos, The Matrix, the first one.
Oh, that's right. He was a scumbag in that.
The angry police captain in Bad Boys. I didn't even see the third one. I don't know. But he I thought really stood out as like the police captain in those movies because he was funny.
He's got a very unique voice as well, where as soon as you hear him. Like when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out, he was one of the Italian mob bosses that was giving the orders. And it's like, that's Joey Pants right there.
Memento, I thought was another good performance.
Oh my God, he was awesome in Memento. Lenny!
Very talented. So those two having great chemistry together, and those like basically fighting like angry children throughout the entire film, which is really funny.
That's actually how they got the part. They did their audition together.
That's really cool.
They did that back and forth, and I thought that was fantastic. I'm like, yo, if that's how they did it, I'm glad they kept it.
And Robert Davie was the one who was originally supposed to light the fire in the escape at the beginning of the movie, but he said because he was already doing the escape and jumping in the window, he said Joey should be the one who shoots because like the lighter or the matches, whatever, didn't work. And he said Joey should be the one that shoots the fire because I'm already escaping and jumping through, so let's give him something more to do.
Where would he get a gun from, too, if he's running?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I guess from the cops, but... it just makes more sense to just get out of there. But there's a lot about Goonies that doesn't make sense, too.
As we've alluded to, multiple times. Yeah, there are a lot of things.
I mean, like, if we're talking about, like, everybody in this movie has gone on and done bigger things, too, and it's, like, it was kind of cool. Like, obviously, we mentioned Corey Feldman doing a whole string of 80s movies, like Lost Boys, License to Drive, like, stuff like that. So it was like he was already... on his way up. Josh Brolin, I think he's
still
done
kicking ass.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. He played Cable in Deadpool 2, which they do make Goonies references.
Oh, yes, they do. Come on, One-Eyed Willie.
Yeah. What's it? Sicario, I think he does an amazing job in both those movies. So it's like
obviously Avengers.
Yeah.
He's
Well, I guess
Thanos.
I like him as the villain in the remake of True Grit with Jeff Bridges.
Oh
He
yeah,
was really good.
That was very good.
He has like this big scar on his face. I do not regret shooting your papa. Really great. He's just he has a lot of diversity. The guy has one of those faces that can just change from like one image to another. You may not recognize him, you may, but he has a lot of different looks that he brings to the table.
He was also very good. Not that the movie was the best, but in Men in Black 3, where they go back in time and he plays a young Tommy Lee Jones, he was very good in that.
Yeah.
He looked like he could have been the young version of Tommy Lee Jones.
Exactly. And then he played that character to a T, where it's like, okay, yeah, I can see it. And then, like how that K character always had that, like, soft side to him. It really showed at the end when Jay lost his dad, and I was like, this is really why they got Josh Brolin.
Oh, yeah. Shit, did he play Jonah Hex?
The only good part of that movie.
Yeah.
Going from DC to Marvel. Yeah, he was the only good thing in that movie. Everything else is a train wreck of shit.
Some people would say Megan Fox, but
no.
I said some people.
Some people. Because Megan Fox is hot. That's why they would say that.
That's exactly why. Because some people just have no substance.
Jeff, you have something in your teeth?
Anyway. I mean, like, even Sean Astin, he was saying before, the character he played, Bob, was based off of Mikey from Goonies. And Stranger Things, sorry. I just said a name. So he based that whole thing off of Mikey. So it's like, yeah, he was alive during the 80s. Like, even that, they made references to 80s reference movies. So, like,
they did.
The It. The It.
The It.
So it's like, it was kind of cool seeing, like, him acknowledge, like, yeah, he's one that really does want to do the sequel. So it's like, it's cool seeing, like, main characters wanting to come back.
Yeah.
And like I said, a lot of people going on and doing bigger things is kind of, like, mind-blowing.
Jeff Cohen, I believe, is a lawyer now. I think he did a couple other, like, kids stuff and then just went to adult life.
Just kind of retired from the acting thing.
Yeah.
Adult life.
I know Corey Feldman, he had his problems with drugs and stuff, and now he's a big advocate for child pedophilia and sexual harassment in Hollywood, which it's come out that it has become a really big deal. And when I really got to say, we all should really, like, respect Corey Feldman for doing that, because when he first said it, everybody laughed at him and thought, oh, this is all bullshit and blah, 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 blah. But now that it's been coming out more and more, he's been on it, and, like, everybody who made fun of him should owe him an apology.
Maybe we should
that's a real serious issue.
Yes, it is a very...
I think the problem was, like, he was always viewed as that druggie, and it didn't make him a credible source, but he was a druggie because of all the stuff that happened to him and Corey Haim and all of them. And it's like, that was the one thing, like, at first, like, I was kind of hesitant too, and I'm like, dude, is it true? And then as it came out more, and I'm like, I feel that we all do owe an apology, even for...
What was the number one drug in the 80s? Cocaine.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And Hollywood's known for giving kids drugs too. I mean, was it Judy Garland and Shirley Temple? They were giving them drugs for, to just, like, perform. Hey, you're a moneymaker to us. So kids were the exact same way. And kids, they're easily influenced.
Yeah. Dance monkey.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And if you say you're giving them money, so it's I can understand that. I was watching a Ninja Turtles 30-year anniversary where him, Robbie Rist, who did the voice of Michelangelo, were on a Zoom meeting together with Judith Hoag, and they were talking about child actors, and they said, how do you guys feel about them with all the stuff coming out and what's going on? And they said, well, if a parent's going to force a kid into doing it because the parent wants their kid to be like, hey, here's my kid, make him a star so that we can make... They said, that's wrong, don't do that. But if a kid actually wants to be an actor, let him be an actor.
Encourage it.
Yeah, he said that there's a difference between that and them being used.
Yeah, forced.
Exactly.
Those show parents, like those, like, because I've seen those show moms where they realize, oh, if my kid's going to be famous, that means I'm going to be famous too, because I'm the one that pushed my kid to doing this lifestyle, and they're doing things that I couldn't do when I was the kid, and maybe that talent's going to rub off on me so that I can become famous one day. I've seen show moms like that. Believe me, they're real. They are very real.
It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you're creeping me the fuck out with that face. Like, I started believing it.
And believe me, the moms tend to dress up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
What's even scarier is the makeup.
Oh no.
Jeff, did you almost puke there?
no. Like I said, I got sinus issues this week, and it's just kind of all of a sudden just decided to go, I'm going to start draining as we're recording. I was thinking about, like, as you were talking about, like, them doing the 30th anniversary for Turtles. I'm glad that Corey Feldman is still here. And
Yes.
like, I'm glad that he's still an advocate for, like, the Turtles. Like, he just did that documentary. He did a documentary for Crystal Lake Memories, where he was the narrator. And I thought that was really cool.
He was a narrator.
I thought it was cool, but yet I also thought like he was over dramatic in something. But it was still cool that he recognizes that franchise, and he's actually like got a second career out of it because he does like a lot of independent horror films now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was big into horror because he said he was that kid, Tommy, who was obsessed with things that were of the macabre and having masks and dressing up and being somebody from a movie that he wasn't, but he wanted to be that character. He was that character, basically.
I would
young
say
Tommy.
He's done multiples of horror movies from the 80s and early 90s. So, like, even now he's still doing them. But I'm like, the ones that always stand out are always obviously going to be Friday the 13th and Lost Boys. And The Burbs itself was essentially a horror movie wrapped in a comedy.
Yeah.
Because that's actually one of my favorite Tom Hanks movies,
The
which
Burbs.
is kind of funny. But it is the aspect of whether or not, like, is your neighbor really going to kill people?
Right.
He actually does do a lot, and like he's more famous for his drug issues than his actual acting career.
Which is sad because how many celebrities, whether it's in music, geez.
Yeah,
It's almost like it's required. Once you become a successful rock star, you got to be a drug addict.
But truthfully, like he said, it's like he's had a career that's there, and it's like his drug use should not overshadow something that he's done amazing. I'm like, come on, being the voice of Donatello and Ninja Turtles. Killing Jason, so stuff like that should be your main focal point, not what his extracurricular activities were.
Yeah, and they should listen to his past too, and hear like what he went through and what other kids have gone through.
Yeah,
and it's amazing how it just gets swept under the rug, which is another reason why if you don't fully believe in the child molesting stuff, it's like, well, this guy's getting blackballed. So let's put two and two together here, people. It's not that much of a fucking coincidence.
Yeah. There's a laundry list of kids.
Oh, yeah. And Rose McGowan even, had spoken out, and here her shit was true, and people laughed at her, and now it's like, guess what?
Dana Plato, Corey Haim, as we mentioned before, the boner from Growing Pains. Oh, yeah, they've all...
Boner?
From the show Growing Pains.
Never.
Okay, well, he was a child actor that basically was plagued by the system.
Okay.
So there's a lot of them out there, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, absolutely. And it's sad. It's sad and it's really pathetic. But, I'm not going to get, into the politics side of things, but I just heard from people that I know that actually work for the federal government that said that basically it's like that child pedophilia stuff is more for high-end people and drugs are more for street people.
I'm just glad that none of that
really
none of that
cool.
shit happened during the Goonies, because everybody, like you said, everybody from this cast remembers this movie, promotes the movie, talks about the movie, and will never forget the movie because it was a great working experience. Working for Richard Donner. They don't have a problem with the movie because none of that shady shit happened on this set.
And also remember that in Superman, because Richard Donner directed Superman, hence why at the very end Sloth rips off
comes
his
up
shirt,
with a Superman t-shirt.
and you hear the Superman
You
theme.
fucking sniped that from me, you
I'm
motherfucker.
sorry. I didn't know you were waiting for it.
I was just waiting, man.
Yeah. Colin with the kill.
I know, dude. But yeah, dude, that was probably one of the most iconic moments in there. Besides the "Hey, you guys,"
The theme song
Actually,
plays.
yeah, and the music kicks in. I was like, damn, that's beautiful right there.
Yeah.
But going back to that, when we talked about the Superman episode, everybody said they love working with Richard Donner. They said he's just a giving guy. He's absolutely a joy to work with. When the cast was upset, he didn't come back for the sequel, or they didn't finish the sequel.
Well, there is the Richard Donner cut
Exactly.
for Superman 2. I don't.
Which is better than the theatrical version.
It is a lot better. I've seen both, and there's a big difference.
Yes. But the same thing happened with the kids in Goonies, too. There was even a little practical joke where they said Steven Spielberg they made it seem like after the movie was done that the kids like let the movie get to their heads, and Richard Donner was actually upset that they didn't like reach out to him. And he was like,
sad.
yeah, he
Oh,
was
really?
like, oh, okay. So he went back to his house in Maui, and the guys that told the story about how Steven Spielberg, I guess, footed the bill to have the kids all go to Richard Donner's house, and his neighbor called him up and said, "Hey, Richard, can you like come and help me? My car broke down." And he was like, "Okay, I'll be there." So like everybody like went to Richard Donner's house, and when he showed up, they were all like, "Hey!"
That's
and they all had a
awesome.
party, and they said they like recorded it and stuff.
Oh.
And then Corey Feldman also said this, which is really cool, that another one of Richard Donner's neighbors that showed up to the surprise party was Alice Cooper.
No shit.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
That's
Corey
awesome.
Feldman was all like, I thought it was weird that Alice Cooper was at this surprise party and all of us kids were there, but it was cool.
No more, Mr. Nice Guy. That's awesome.
And then I think they said that Donner saw Josh Brolin surfing, and he was like, "What are you doing here?" And he goes, "Well, my mom has a house too somewhere here in Hawaii." And then when he went in, he was like, "I didn't leave the TV on," and then he saw all the kids, and they said they just like all migrated to him, like, "Hey," and
That's
hugged him
awesome.
and stuff.
That's a really good feeling.
That was a really cool story.
Yeah.
And it also just shows again like how much everybody loves that guy, because you know some directors are really hit or miss, and when you don't hear stories about like how they keep in touch, you hear guys like Tim Burton and Johnny Depp and the working relationship that they have, and obviously they're two adults, but they have a good camaraderie together. But to hear how like the cast of Superman really like supported Richard Donner and how the kids just absolutely loved him, it says a lot about Richard Donner as a
Yeah.
person, not just
Yeah.
a filmmaker.
Absolutely. Still waiting on possibly Lethal Weapon 5 if it happens. They want to make it happen.
Oh
And
shit, I
he needs
forgot
to be-
about
Who the
him.
fuck
He needs
is
to be
gonna-
the guy to direct that movie. He's-
Like, who the fuck is waiting for Riggs and Murtaugh to come back for another shot at this?
I'm getting too old for this shit.
They're like
Riggs.
900 years old at this point in action movies here.
So Richard Donner worked with Tom Atkins then.
Exactly.
Yes, he did.
Yo! That's awesome.
Yes, he
Oh
did.
my gosh.
I love that third act climactic sequence with the pirate ship and then the robbers coming in on the ship and then making the kids walk the plank. Even though nothing bad's gonna happen because there's no sharks in that pool of water. Otherwise, that would have picked them off when they landed there. They're just gonna drop in the water if they just dropped them over the plank. So
Well, I think there's another concept that there was an octopus in the water.
that's right. But there was no octopus.
Exactly.
Except there was a dead guy who set up his own booby traps so that if he didn't get his own share of gold, he was going to kill everybody on board the ship with the load of dynamite. If Sean Astin didn't figure out that he needed his own cut. And yeah, don't think about this.
Yeah, and then we also forgot about, what's his name? Chester
Copperpot, who was
Yeah.
his body was discovered, and they find the newspaper article that he has.
Yes.
And that's where they find the key, right? The
skeleton.
skeleton key. That they found it on his body. Don't they find it on his body?
Oh yeah, I'm thinking of the pendulum.
Yeah.
Okay.
You get the key, the medallion, you get the map. So you got 3 items now.
So basically, he's just like a MacGuffin right there. He's a dead MacGuffin for everybody to progress the plot.
I liked it when the Fratellis found him and they look in his wallet and they're like, "Oh, the kids ransacked him, Ma."
He took all his money.
Yeah, of course they think that. I was like, "That's good."
They do find a $50 bill, but come on, it's counterfeit. It's clearly counterfeit because it's used to be they're running a counterfeit operation. So.
The funny thing is, the 2 skeletons that are in the movie, one was real and one was fake. So the Chester Copperfield, whatever, fuck his name was.
Copperpot.
Yeah, he was a fake skeleton. One-Eyed Willie was a real skeleton. Which was even
Oh.
funnier. I'm like, so the main skeleton is a real one.
And on top of that, Steven Spielberg helped produce Poltergeist,
Which they use real skeletons from India.
and they were like plagued with the curse.
Well, the funny thing is, like, most skeletons you see are real.
Yes.
That's what.
They're cheaper than plastic.
Yeah.
That's horrifying that a real skeleton's cheaper.
But I
Not
watched.
really.
I don't know, I find that disturbing.
I watched
Well,
a documentary called
well.
Cursed Films, and they were talking about Poltergeist. And they said, where the fuck do you think we get skeletons from? They're like, obviously we need real ones to make it look good, so we get real skeletons. So
Yeah, they got them from
you
India.
can tell the fucking difference between the two.
See, that's where I get lost in translation with the price that they're cheaper because you're getting them from India. Like, isn't there anybody fucking dead, like in the States that, you can just desanitize them and get them?
Yeah. Shipping costs has probably got to be pretty high.
I don't
want to think about it too much, though, but I'm surprised. I did not know One Eye Willie was a real skeleton, so it makes me believe, was there ever a curse on this movie because they used a real skeleton? No, there was not.
Think of Return of the Living Dead, where they actually talk about where do you think real skeletons come from or dead bodies. They were saying they all came from India. I was like laughing as soon as you probably that's all I could think of.
Yeah, I know. I think of Return of the Living Dead more.
Yeah.
I love that movie, actually.
For being an unofficial sequel to Night of the Living Dead, that one is probably the funniest movie I've ever watched in my life because it actually takes the concept that Night of the Living Dead was a real thing that happened, and then these are the events that happened because of that movie.
By the same writer, Dan O'Bannon.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
He wrote it and directed it, and there's a really interesting documentary about that, but that's a whole nother topic.
More Brains.
More Brains. Yep.
More Brains.
I own that one.
Isn't it on the Blu-ray though?
I don't even know anymore.
I think so. Because I had the Blu-ray to Return of the Living Dead.
So
It's probably my favorite zombie movie, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
I actually totally agree. Like, if Night of the Living Dead wasn't mine, that's actually my number 2.
Okay.
It's kind of bad when I say that because Shaun of the Dead's up there too.
Shaun of the Dead's a very good zombie movie.
I mean, I could talk all day long about Return of the Living Dead. Because that's a really fun movie that I like watching. Oh, what are you thinking? What I'm thinking?
Are we already plotting our next episode?
Might be later in the year, but definitely gonna get.
When we get towards the month of October, maybe. Yeah.
Let's put a pin in this one and continue this conversation later.
Right. You heard that, folks. Return of the Living Dead coming to you soon.
I better watch some aerobic videos. That's like one of my favorite moments in that movie.
Also, wait, we should stop talking about Return of the Living Dead.
We should really, yeah.
Because
we got
all fucking day.
Sloth comes in with the Superman shirt. The kids are being ready to walk the plank. Mama's trying to rock his son to sleep. She hints that she dropped him on his head
more than once.
That's how he gets the fucked up face. Is dropping on his head.
I know. I was like, that's so sad.
That's horrible. Yes, of course. Throw Mama off the ship.
Throw Mama off the ship.
Then you could throw her off the train later on.
Laughing as this fucking...
Then you could throw Mama off the train. Did I just break Jeff a little bit? I'm on a night train.
Oh my fucking god!
Going back to the Axl Rose thing.
I feel like there's so many like the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon going on, but like Stallone and
yeah, I know, right?
6 Degrees of Robert Davie.
Well, it is an all-star ensemble cast, so. Yeah. And it's Steven Spielberg alone with all the intertwining? Holy shit.
Yes.
Oh, you could totally do it. I mean, the Indiana Jones, the Richard Donner and Superman, and fuck, you got NFL football in there yet.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if this movie itself is probably one of the biggest made movies in the 80s, because if you think about it, like, I should say kids movies, because I say biggest movie, because come on, I'm already thinking Predator, already.
Yeah.
Terminator, everything like along that. But I mean, like the biggest kids movie made, biggest production made kids movie. Because there's a lot that came out for us in the 80s. And it seems to be like this year's theme is 80s movies. And no matter what we've done, we've always come back to it.
Oh, we have.
Mm-hmm.
And this one I think is going to always stick with us. Because shit, last year we watched it with Thea.
Yep. We did.
And I think we watched it more than she did.
I know.
There's a picture on my Facebook or all our Facebooks now because of it.
The guys are immersed in the movie and Thea's off playing.
Yeah, I think she was sitting with us, but she was doing something else.
Yeah. Fun memory.
But yeah. It's an amazing movie.
Anna and Elsa were more important.
Yeah.
And I guess what causes the rocks to crumble? Was it the dynamite that goes off in the ship and basically creates the rock formation to crumble?
No, I thought it was because the Fratellis took the Willie's gold. Because remember, Mikey says don't take Willie's gold off of the balance beam.
They start ransacking the ship.
But now, I forget. Did they mention that, or was that another thing that was missing where you can take anything on the ship, but not Willie's gold?
Sean Astin, Mikey does mention that. Because the kids actually try to go for his gold, and he says, no, no. This is for him. This is his cut. Let's be respectful of the dead. So he's taking this moment very seriously.
So, but there wasn't anything like in the map or
No,
in the
it wasn't
lore
in the
that
map,
said anything,
and
don't
then
do that.
He even has a conversation with One-Eye Willie, and the kids are just kind of watching him from a distance. And he's like, how long have you been there? Long enough. For you to hear you spill your guts out to a dead body that's been dead for hundreds of years.
Yeah, I kind of thought that dragged on longer than what it should have. I thought it was okay for him to say, I did it, Willie, I beat you, but then he just added some more fluff to it. That
I think it's one of those things like this is their last adventure, and this is his way of like dealing with the fact that tomorrow they're not gonna have a home.
Right.
So Willie is pretty much his embodiment of everything that they just culminated. I think that's what I took away from that whole speech, even though it's like, you said it was a little longer than it should have been, but it was, I think, for the effect that everyone heard it, so it was like, now we got the comedic effect to come in over a serious fucking moment.
That's true, too, yeah.
I
mean, it just, I think less was still more. Like, it still could have, like, had an effect, and he could have just turned his head and been like, oh.
Less is always more. That's how you learn in the film industry.
And even like the line Josh Brolin says where he's like, long enough, Mikey, long enough. I'm like, I think just them standing there and him just going like, oh, you heard me out loud, huh? And if they all go, yeah, you're talking to a dead guy, it probably would have been more effective than just the long enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's like, it is like, kind of like you said, Jeff, where it's like the last adventure, here's the hurrah. And then he even, like, did the eye patch where he looked up and got freaked out.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so it's supposed to be, like, quick funny, then back to quick. Aw. I'm like, I don't know.
Tonally, you think there's an imbalance, basically.
Yeah. Where I think the less was more, and they could have just boom, 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 hey, here's the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then they start taking their cut.
Yeah. The rock formation crumbles, and that creates the getaway for the ship to get out. But we won't get to that yet.
Well, you think, I was going to say, you don't want to jump the gun too soon because the Fratellis do come and get them.
Yeah. But then they get out because that basically creates an exit for them to get out. And the parents, of course, they've been searching this whole time for them. And the Fratellis are apprehended. The cops are showing up. But then at the same time, that dick landlord happens to show up and say, it's time for you to sign. I don't care that your kids have been missing for almost 24 hours. I don't give a shit because I'm the villain, the secret villain of this movie. Sign the papers now and give me my land. I love how the parents, you can see the personalities, like the parents and the kids coming together. Like Chunk's parents bring him a pizza when they find him.
Data's dad's camera doesn't work for a selfie.
He's the inventor. That's where obviously Data learns from his dad, and they have that really touching moment in Japanese, which I thought was really nice.
That was really cool. Yeah, I did like that.
That was a really nice moment.
Where the dad says, "My greatest invention was you."
Yes.
That was really cool.
The funny thing is, a lot of the families that were there were actually the real families. So that last scene was with some of the real families. I can't tell you who was who, but I just thought that was cool finding that out. The funny thing is, like, when they discover the treasure, so under maritime law, Mikey's cut actually makes him the rightful owner of the entire booty on the ship.
All right.
Okay.
Because he found it. He took it after they discovered it. When he put it in his pocket and he brought it back to land, it's now all his.
Interesting.
Okay. I was like, when I read that, I'm like, so wait, Mikey now owns the entire contents of that ship under maritime law. I was like, well, shit, man, he could pay for everything.
Yeah, he could, honestly. I made a mistake. Sorry, Data is Vietnamese. I made that mistake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I wanted to correct myself. Okay, yep, he's Vietnamese, not Japanese. My bad.
But yeah. So that whole ending scene was like really heartfelt, and I was glad they actually were able to bring their real families in to do some of it. And it was really cool, like them finally going, oh yeah.
We forgot to mention that the Fratellis, they actually take all their cut from the kids when they get ready to push them off the pirate ship.
Mm-hmm.
So the kids pretty much don't have anything when they escape from the rocks, and Sloth helps keep the rock up so that they escape.
Yes.
And when the realtor comes and says, oh, you got to sign the papers, that's when Rosalita actually finds in Mikey's pocket that there was one bag of jewels that they didn't get. And that's how they had the jewels and how it was Mikey's.
They thought it was marbles? They switched the marble. Yes, right. He had marbles, and they thought it was treasure, but they took his marbles instead of the actual treasure. And so Rosalita finds it. Like, Mouth, Translate, man. Come on, dude. You did this in the beginning of the movie.
And that's how they were able to pay off everything in a day.
The dad rips up the papers, and it's like this big grand moment of throwing the papers in the air like confetti. That was great. Sloth lives with Chunk in the family.
That was cool.
They actually adopt him.
They adopt him.
Yeah, I'm finding that I thought that was really cool.
Like, oh, this is like tugging at your heartstrings a little bit. Like, oh, he's got a family now. He's got a real family.
But when he does you think Sloth's gonna die or get trapped in the cave,
Yeah.
and Chunk's like, no, come. Like, that's like wrenching at your heart, and Sloth goes, Sloth, love Chunk. It's like, no!
God damn it!
No, man!
Yeah, dude.
Who's got a baby Ruth? Super strength. Where's the baby Ruth?
Fucking like Popeye.
Oh yeah, pretty much. Yeah, come on, guys. There's no One-Eye Willie. You guys imagine the whole thing. Oh my God, is that a fucking ship coming out of the rocks right now?
And also one of the two cops that comes on the bikes in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was Richard Donner.
Oh yeah, I did know that. That's awesome. And they have like a news crew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like everyone's like running out to them. Like, fuck, man. You guys.
They're like hot on the trail. The kid's being missing for almost 24 hours, and oh my God. Eat your heart out, Channel 5. We got a fucking pirate ship on camera right now.
The funny thing is that this event takes place over 2 days. So it's from October 24th to October 26th.
Okay.
So they actually get discovered, I guess, the morning of October 26th.
Oh, okay. So over 24 hours. All right.
Yeah. And when I found that out, because they actually hint at it when as they're going, because there's a calendar with a date, and then like I guess time passes to show that they've been doing this for 2 days.
Without eating or drinking really anything.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that date correlates with Back to the Future too. So October 26th is the first movie.
Oh my God.
I was like, so you guys were setting up stuff or doing stuff in play to. Here you go.
Here's some Easter eggs. More Easter eggs for you.
Like in Night of the Creeps and the Go Monster Squad Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, didn't Spielberg produce Back to the Future?
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
Robert Zemeckis directed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I remember Zemeckis directing it. I don't remember if Steven Spielberg had
He was definitely part of it. Yep.
Yep, I believe he was the producer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if you think about it, if they use those Easter eggs, as they should, that means that Back to the Future, Goonies, and Gremlins are all in the same universe.
Yes. Mind blown.
I wonder if there's like an E.T. thing in there.
Now I feel like we should go back and just
we need to delve into this.
Hunting into everything.
This is our Goonies adventure. How does it all tie in?
There's already a poltergeist reference, a real skeleton.
Yeah. Again,
Real
with
skeletons.
the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
It's the one skeleton that got away from the house.
Oh my gosh.
Oh. This one will bring us good luck.
Fuck out of here.
If you look closely in the background of Poltergeist, there is a skeleton with an eye patch.
Wait, I'm gonna go look.
Oh my God.
Damn.
So that's Goonies, man. 1985.
You forgot the main thing. The score itself actually plays a big part in everything. So, like you said, intense moments. You get the little bit of Superman thrown in there. So it's like everything fit. I don't even know who actually does it.
I did find out. It was Dave. Oh my God, the first name is Dave, from what I remember. Dave Grusson. I don't know who that is. I really don't, but I'm sure he's well known in the community. He's done. Let's see. Just looking at it. Yeah, I know. I'm doing the whole IMDb search right now. So
I can talk over you while you're doing it. Like before, where we did a couple of things where the music plays into it, where I mentioned it during Rob Zombie's films. This is another thing that actually does play really well into it.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy that. So it's like, hell, man. I got excited that they actually messaged me back while we're talking about it. So it's like, it seems to be like every time we are doing something and something pops up later where it correlates with what we've already talked about. So like, as I'm talking about this, I get a message from the record store about that. We did Rob Zombie's. I ended up finding Halloween 1, 2, and Lords of Salem on vinyl. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it was kind of cool. Like, all right, so it's kind of cool, like the correlations. Like even after Indiana Jones, we talked about they should do it on 4K. I got a thing for pre-order for that being on 4K.
We talked about Terminator, and then all of a sudden the trailer for Dark Fate came out or something.
There's always these weird coincidences that happen.
In Power Rangers, they said they're going to reboot Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe now we're going to hear that Goonies 2 is officially going to happen.
The Goonies sequel's been greenlit like tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's going to be, that'll be funny. There's a lot more than just what we talked about, because there are bizarre coincidences.
And it's kind of funny, like we were talking about Return of the Living Dead. Was it July 9th? We're talking about doing VHS Fest. And how do you say her name?
Lene.
Yeah, she's actually going to be there. She plays Trash in Return of the Living Dead, so I think that's pretty funny.
We actually saw her at the sideshow market.
I know, like, dude, she's really, like, spry, too, for being an old lady.
Yeah.
I was watching her, like, interact with people, like, damn.
Yeah.
She's got her morning medicine.
I mean, that's another woman who's been in, like, 80s horror.
Yeah. Like, low 80s horror.
Underground 80s horror.
Come on, had the best death in
Silent Night, Deadly Night.
So it's like, it's kind of cool. Like,
that's true.
Memorable character in Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah. Shit.
Night of
the Demons?
Yeah, Night of the Demons.
I love your face on that one.
Night of the Demons. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, wow.
One of those Night of movies, the ones that no one really talks about.
Well, that just wasn't good.
It was odd.
That just wasn't good.
I mean, I don't get the... It was just weird.
Talking about coincidence. Should ask her.
Yeah.
Like, walk up.
What were you thinking? Like, what is that movie really about? Like, were you demons already?
Yes.
We were.
There's like no logic to it. Weird.
Yeah.
And it sucked.
No, it didn't suck. The Goonies.
No, it didn't.
So I guess it begs the question, since we've been talking about this for a while, and like the beginning of the movie, like, what would you rather have? I guess the Goonies or Monster Squad?
That's for another episode, dude.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we did allude to that in the beginning.
Well, that's what this was. It was leading up to.
Right.
It's not a versus episode.
Yeah,
I know it's not a
this
versus
is just
episode.
Goonies.
Just Goonies.
And nonsense.
Goonies and nonsense.
Like every other episode.
Absolutely. Let's end it with a favorite scene, then.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't we?
Mine?
Go start it, Colin.
I love it when Chunk goes to the car and he's like, you gotta help me. I know these ugly people, the Fratellis. And then Robert Davie turns the car light on and Chunk's just like, oh shit. And Davie just starts singing and Chunk, that's like my go-to scene. I absolutely love it. And then you can even hear Robert Davie go, what seems to be the problem?
Yeah.
He goes, you need to help me, mister. He goes, I'm just a kid. And then the look on his face on the light, like Chunk's face, and Robert Davie's like, really? And then all he does is sing, and Chunk freaks the fuck out. It's hilarious.
But what he says is actually in Hebrew. That was ad-lib, too.
Oh,
After
really?
the fact, so he prays in Hebrew.
Yes, he does. He does.
So it's like, after you say that's your favorite scene, I'm like, yo, that's actually like makes it even perfect.
Chunk's he's Jewish, okay.
Yeah.
So that's a good little character tidbit there.
Least favorite scene, I gotta say, is the scene where the dad, Brandon Mikey's dad, is ready to sign the contract. I feel like it drags way too long. He like does his glasses, like he lifts it up his nose like 2 or 3 times. They cut back and forth way too much, and he's like pausing so unrealistically.
Well, I think he's trying to stall because he doesn't...
Yeah, but I get that. But it was done so bad in the intercuts, and it's like the same shit. Like, what are you stalling for other than like the inevitable? Like what are you waiting for that's not going to happen? You know, it was like too... And then also what was so corny was you don't see the dad really throughout majority of the movie except for the like, oh, hi, Mikey. And then he rips the contract up and throws it like, hey, yeah! And it looks like this confetti, and it was just way too corny for me. I was like, I mean, there are corny moments in Goonies, but I thought that was just too much, and I just said, this is just too stupid for me, even in the corniest parts of the movie. I was like, no,
No.
no, I hated that part.
Jeff.
Honestly, I think my favorite scene as of now was actually the conversation the Fratellis had with the kids.
Okay.
Where it's all in Italian. And then, like I said, at the time going over our heads, going over their heads, and then like giving an adult understanding what's actually happening made it even funnier because I'm like not realizing the levels they did to get that to happen, let alone the kids not understanding what's actually happening. I was like, perfect. I got honestly even the second scene where it's Brand and Mikey in the bedrooms was another scene that really stuck out to me. Past that is like it was just a fun adventure. I don't really have least favorite scene. Like I feel like I've actually defended this movie a couple times today. That's rare for me. Like come on, dude. Think about Night of the Creeps when I said I absolutely love that movie. It's my favorite Tom Atkins movie, and then all of a sudden my brain clicked to like how the fuck?
How the fuck?
But it's like it's just a fun movie. I think I take it as that. Like it's always gonna be just a fun movie. I'm not gonna dig into it. I'm not gonna.
Gotcha.
Really hate on it because I'm like, I really can't hate on it.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
My favorite scene's probably.
No one gives a fuck. Yeah, fuck off.
You were just waiting for that. It's like you just turned into The Rock from WWE. What's your name? It doesn't matter what your name is. How long have you been holding that one in?
No long. I literally about 30 seconds.
Good for you. Good for you. There you go. Anyway, favorite scene, Jeff? The ship sequence in the third act. I definitely liked leading up to before the dynamite explodes and before the rock formations fall and everything. I love when like you get some Data's gadgets, you get like the teeth clamping in and Joey Pants' nutsack. And he reacts in pain. And then you got Sloth having his huge moment throwing Mama off the ship. There's a lot of fun parts to that because I wanted to get to the ship sequence, and that still is my favorite scene. I call it a sequence, but sequence scene, that entire moment is like my favorite part of the movie, is the reveal of the ship and what happens on the ship. Least favorite scene is actually involving the character Troy, which is the jock that is dating Cary Green's character. He's like the guy with the football varsity jacket, and they keep cutting back to him every now and then, getting into like these debacles because of what the kids are doing down below. The water shoots up through the toilet as he's trying to take a shit, and he's like screaming for his dad. And that was probably my least favorite scene in the whole movie because they keep cutting back to him. Like, get this guy off camera. I don't want to see anything with him. Like, and even the well sequence doesn't make sense to me because they're so far down. They just happen to be under this well, and there he is up top, dropping coins down below. His girlfriend's down there. The varsity jacket gets thrown up to him, and I get the whole, Andy, you Goonie! Like that moment and everything. But that's probably my least favorite scene, where like, just keep cutting back to this guy. Anytime they cut back to the scenes like that, it turned me off.
You know, that brings up an interesting question. Was Goonies a term that they coined for themselves, or is that a general term for, like, an adventure?
I feel like it's something they came up with.
Actually, I think it's like something that the rich people would call them.
Okay.
So it's like more of a derogatory term, but they accepted it.
They embraced it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they made it their own thing.
Because they say Goonies never say die.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering why he called her a Goonie.
Yeah.
And it just didn't seem like it was a kid's thing, and I didn't quite get that. So I just wanted to bring that up. Okay.
I forgot her name is Andy. That's right, it is Andy.
Andy?
Yeah. Cary Green's name is Andy.
Andy. Oh,
Same
well.
difference.
Andy. Yeah.
Has an A and an N in it.
Yeah.
With an E sound at the end.
Just a D in there.
Fuck off, D.
So you guys have anything else to add to our Goonies episode?
I think comes to mind right now. I think we talked about. I probably could have done more research. I didn't do any novel writing for this one.
I know. I was surprised. Didn't see a fucking like script come out.
It's actually on my phone. It's actually like 20 pages of stuff on my phone. That's why I was scrolling up and down during the episode. Going digital.
Overall, I gotta say, Goonies is a really fun movie. It's good for adults. It's good for kids. It's good for whatever age you are. It's flawed, but it's fun. It's a very fun movie. It's taken very seriously. You can tell there's a lot of heart into it. Yeah. I recommend it for anybody. It's definitely worth, adding to your collection. I have no doubt about that. I don't think anybody would really argue with it. mean, like I said, there are points that I see where I'm like, it's a little too corny at times, but it's fun. I mean, I recognize that. I mean, like the last part that I probably didn't like the most was the very end, just because it was like it was too much and too soon. But overall, like the pacing is really good too. It's almost a 2-hour movie, but it goes really well, and you like seeing what they're doing.
You're never bored.
No, you're not, and that's that's the kiss of death in any movie, is being bored, especially for something that's almost 2 hours. But no, it's like one booby trap after another, and like I said, like even Andy played a big part in being there when she wasn't even really supposed to be there. So it's really cool seeing how they all kind of come together for that right place, right time. And it's the good versus bad, when it's like low level bad versus upper class bad. It's a really cool, fun adventure, and I think everybody will enjoy it. So yeah, we all really recommend Goonies.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And with that being said, I guess we'll sign off. This is Colin Peters,
John Rochetter,
and Jeff Manfred.
Thank you all once again for listening. Stay safe. Stay crazy.
Please, somebody help me.
Oh, yeah.